Right. One thing to hold on to before we start, because it decides everything else in this video. It isn't about whether it breaks. It's what it costs when it does, and who's allowed to fix it. Toyota has owned the word reliable in this country for about 30 years, and it's earned a fair bit of that. But go and look at the actual British surveys, not the American ones with the dollar signs on them. The British ones filled in by people sat in a queue on a wet Tuesday. Toyota isn't top. In one of the biggest, it comes third. And the brand that's beaten it 5 years running is one most people have never once walked into a showroom to look at. 7 brands, all sold here, all right-hand drive, all with a British owner survey behind them rather than a press release. And number 1 isn't a different engineering culture at all. It's the same one with fewer things bolted to it. Stay with me and that'll make sense. I'm Terry Halloran and this is British Vehicles. No manufacturer pays us a penny. No press cars and we don't sell cars. Everything here comes from published data and we'll tell you which is which. Do me a favor before we start. Hit subscribe. It's free and it costs you nothing, and this is the sort of thing that stops a mate signing for something daft on a Saturday morning. Where this comes from. The What Car. Reliability survey for 2025 is over 32,000 owners, 30 brands, 227 models, cars up to 5 years old, scored on what the repair cost and how long the car was off the road. The Honest John Satisfaction Index is thousands of readers rating cars they own. Warranty-wise is different again, because that's real claims on older cars. Plus DVSA, recall notices and MOT history. Now the bit nobody says. None of that tells you what a car's like at 15 years old. What car stops at 5? So when somebody says a brand does 200,000 miles as standard, that's a reputation, not a British survey result. And these scores measure how often something goes wrong, not what it costs when it does. A brand can score badly on infotainment glitches and never take a penny off anybody. Another can score beautifully and hand one owner a 4-figure gearbox bill. That gap is the whole reason for the rule. One more and it's money. Standard road tax is £200 a year. Anything listed over £40,000 when new pays another £440 on top for years 2 to 6. £640 a year. Electric cars get a 50 grand threshold instead. And here's the bit nobody puts on the windscreen. That surcharge follows the registration, not the owner. Buy a 2-year-old one and you inherit whatever's left of it. Also, before you buy any diesel, put the plate through the TfL checker and check your own council for a low emission zone. Don't take a seller's word that it's exempt. Ever. Number 7. Suzuki. Nobody puts Suzuki on a list like this, and that's daft, because Honest John's readers rate the Ignis, the Swift and the Vitara year after year. It's the cheapest way into proper Japanese engineering in this country. Honest bit, the network's small, the interiors are hard plastic, the boots are tight, and if you want plush, you'll hate it. But here's the mechanism, and it isn't clever engineering. It's the absence of it. A Swift's under a ton. Everything on a car that wears out in proportion to the energy going through it, and energy comes from weight and speed. Pads, discs, clutch, drive shafts, bushes, wheel bearings, springs. Put 400 kilos more on the same size of part, and everyone works harder for the exact same trip to the shops. The engines are small, mostly unstressed, and there isn't much bolted on to go wrong. What you notice as an owner is what you don't notice. You get to 80,000 miles and it's still on the clutch it left the factory with. Parts are cheap because they're small and everywhere. Standard cover is 3 years or 60,000 miles. But since May 2025, Suzuki runs a service-activated warranty out to 10 years for 100,000. The catch is in the name. It only activates if you service it at a Suzuki dealer every time. Cheap to buy, cheap to fix, not much on it that can fail. That's the rule in its easy version, and that 10-year warranty is a straight answer to the second half of it. Number 6. Skoda. The Karoq came second overall for reliability in the Honest John Satisfaction Index, beaten by exactly one car, and we'll get to that car. Skoda is Volkswagen Group engineering at Skoda money, and that's genuinely what you're buying. The honest bit is you inherit the bad parts of the group with the good. Same engines, same gearboxes, same electronics. And the one to understand is the dry clutch 7-speed DSG. A DSG is not an automatic in the old sense. It's 2 manual gearboxes sat side by side with robots working the clutches, which is why it shifts so fast. On the wet version, those clutches sit in oil, and oil carries heat away to where it can do no harm. The dry one hasn't got that. So when you're crawling in a queue, holding it on a slope, or shuffling forward 20 feet at a time on the school run, that clutch is slipping, and all of it turns into heat with nowhere to go. Sat right next to it is the mechatronic unit, the hydraulic and electronic brain of the thing, full of solenoids and seals that were never meant to be cooked. You'll know the symptom if you've had one. A shudder pulling away when it's cold. A pause at a junction where you've asked for a gap and the car thinks about it. Then a jolt. Then eventually a lighter neutral in the middle of a roundabout. At a franchise dealer that's a 4-figure job. At an independent gearbox specialist. And there are dozens in this country doing nothing but DSGs. A rebuild is a fraction of it. That difference is the entire point of this brand. A Skoda breaks about as often as the Volkswagen it's built alongside. It just costs less when it does, and a lot more people are allowed to touch it. That's the rule. Second time. Number 5. Kia. 7 years or 100,000 miles. Standard on every model and fully transferable to the next owner. Nobody else mainstream does that. Honest bit first, because a warranty isn't a measurement of reliability, it's a marketing decision, and there are exclusions people find out the hard way. The 12-volt and 48-volt batteries are covered for 24 months, not 7 years. Infotainment, 3 years or 60,000. And the whole thing collapses if the servicing hasn't been done to schedule. But the mechanism is real, and it isn't in the metal. It's in the accounting. When a maker signs up to pay for failures in year 6, every component gets specified by somebody who has to write that check. The failure stops being your problem and starts being theirs, and companies are very good at not spending money. Second effect, and this is the one that shows up in used cars. A fault under warranty gets fixed. A fault out of warranty gets lived with because it's 1,100 quid and the car's worth 4 grand. Kia's come out of years 4 to 7 having actually had things put right. So here's the money. A 4-year-old Kia, serviced on schedule, still has 3 years of manufacturer cover on it, and it transfers to you. Ask for the stamps. No stamps, no warranty, and that car's worth measurably less than the one parked next to it. Most sellers won't raise it. 7 years of somebody else paying is the cleanest answer there is to what it costs when it breaks. That's the rule, third time. Number 4. Hyundai. Same group as Kia. Shares engines, shares platforms, shares the factory thinking. 5 years, unlimited mileage, transferable, and the high voltage battery covered for 8 years or 100,000 miles. Honest bit, 5 is fewer than 7, and unlike Suzuki or Toyota, Hyundai doesn't extend it for servicing with them. And sharing a parts bin with Kia means sharing the faults as well as the wins. The mechanism here is the gearbox, and it's why unlimited mileage isn't a bluff. Hyundai and Kia's full hybrids don't use a CVT, and they don't use a dual clutch for the hybrid drive. They use a conventional 6-speed automatic with an electric motor sat where the torque converter would normally be. Think what that removes. No steel belt running on a pair of cones. No dry clutch pack cooking in traffic. It's a layout the trade has understood and rebuilt for 40 years, with a motor doing the job of the one part that usually slips. And that word unlimited is the tell. Nobody writes unlimited mileage unless they're confident about the wear items, because the people doing 100,000 in 3 years are exactly the ones who'd cost them most. Unlimited mileage, transferable, and the expensive component deliberately designed out. That's the rule, 4th time. Quick favour before the top 3. If this is any use to you, give the like button a tap. Takes a second, costs you nothing, and it shoves this in front of somebody who's about to sign for the wrong motor this weekend. Cheers. Number 3. Mazda. The CX-5 sits in Honest John's reliability top 10 with the RAV4 and the CR-V, and there's barely daylight between the 3 of them. Mazda's Skyactiv G petrols are naturally aspirated, high compression, chain-driven. No turbo, no wet belt, no dual clutch. In 2026, that's almost eccentric. Now the honest bit, and it's a proper one. There's an engine in the Mazda range that'll empty your wallet if you buy it for the wrong journey. The 2.2 Skyactiv D diesel. Here's the mechanism. Every modern diesel has a particulate filter, and every so often it has to burn the soot out. To do that, the engine squirts extra diesel in late in the cycle, which lifts the exhaust temperature enough to light the soot off. Not all of that fuel burns. Some washes past the piston rings into the sump. That happens on every diesel built in the last 15 years, and it isn't a defect, it's how the system works. On the 2.2, it bites harder. It regenerates more often than most, and if your journeys are short, it keeps getting interrupted halfway through. So you get the worst of both. The filter fills up because the burn never completes, and the oil level goes up instead of down because the fuel keeps arriving. Diesel in oil thins the oil. Thin oil kills bearings and turbochargers. The symptoms on the dipstick, and it's the one thing almost nobody checks. Oil above the maximum mark. a whiff of diesel off it. Fuel consumption that quietly gets worse over a year because it's regenerating every 100 miles instead of every 300. The action is dead simple and it's free. Check the dipstick once a month, not once a year at a service. Over the max, oil and filter, straight away. That's 100 and something quid against an engine. And I'll tell you what this video won't do for you. If your driving is 3 miles to the shop and 3 back, the 2.2 diesel is the wrong car and no badge fixes it. Buy the petrol. And diesels registered before September 2015 generally aren't Euro 6. So check the plate before you get excited about the price. Get the engine choice right and the running costs are boring. Get it wrong and the cheapest car on the forecourt becomes the dearest one you've owned. That's the rule, 5th time. Right. Top 2. If you've stuck with me this far, do me a favor and subscribe before I get to number 1, because number 1 is the one nobody sees coming. Number 2. Honda. Honda took first place in the 2025 What Car Reliability Survey with 96.6%. The HR-V scored 97.5%, the Civic 97.3%. 15% of the Hondas in that survey had any fault at all, everyone was fixed free, and more than half were in and back out of the workshop inside a day. Honest bit, and it matters. Honda closed Swindon in 2021, and the British range now is a fraction of what it was. Only 5 models were rated. Fewer dealers means further to travel, and the ENY one was pulled from sale in April 2026. A brilliant score across 5 cars isn't the same as a brilliant score across 20. But the mechanism is the best story on this list. Honda's e-HEV hybrid has functionally no gearbox. The petrol engine spends most of its life turning a generator, not the wheels. An electric motor drives the wheels. There's one clutch that locks the engine straight to the wheels at a steady motorway cruise, where an engine is efficient, and that's the lot. No torque converter, no CVT belt, no dual clutch packs slipping in traffic, no planetary gear train changing ratio underload. Think what that means? The most expensive single thing that fails on a modern car, the thing that turns a $5,000 motor into scrap, is the gearbox. Honda's answer was to delete it. On the petrol side, Honda runs chains, not belts. The K-Series in the older CR-V is a chain. No cam-bolt to budget for at all, and that quietly takes a whole bill out of the ownership. One buying note. On the Mark III CR-V, British cars are the 2-litre petrol or the 2.2 diesel. If an advert says 2.4, that's a Japanese import, and the paperwork and the parts route are different. Worth knowing before you drive 40 miles to look at it. Fewest faults, fixed free, fixed fast, and the dearest component engineered out of existence. That's the rule, 6th time. Number 1. Lexus. Here's the payoff. The only brand that consistently beats Toyota in British data is owned by Toyota. Lexus has topped the Honest John Satisfaction Index for reliability 5 years running. The Lexus NX is the single most reliable model in it at 98.06%. And it's taken Auto Trader's Driver's Choice Most Reliable Brand Award 4 years on the bounce. Everyone assumes that means Lexus builds to a higher standard than Toyota. It doesn't really. It's the same engineering culture with fewer things bolted to it, and once you see the mechanism, you'll never look at a hybrid the same way again. The Lexus Hybrid Transaxle is a planetary gear set, a ring of gears in permanent mesh, with the petrol engine and 2 electric motors all feeding into it. No clutch packs, no bands, no torque converter, no belt. The ratio changes by varying how fast the motors spin, not by anything engaging or letting go. There's almost nothing inside it that wears out the way a normal automatic does, because wear in an automatic comes from things rubbing as they engage, and nothing in there engages. Second bit, regenerative braking. Most of your slowing down is done by the motors pushing charge back into the battery, so the friction brakes barely get used. Pads and discs last an absurd length of time. Flip side, the discs corrode from lack of use, so on a used one, get the wheels off and look at them properly. Now the honest bit, and this is where the rule bites hardest. Parts and labour are premium, and the Lexus network in this country is tiny. The old ones will have you as well. The RX 300 from the turn of the century uses a Camry Saloon automatic in a heavy 4-wheel drive, and that gearbox is the real weak point on the car. More than the belt, more than the battery. It'll do about 25 to the gallon too, which on a cheap car matters more than the number on the windscreen. And the tax. Most new Lexus models list above £40,000, so they carry that £440 surcharge on top of the $200 standard rate for years 2 to 6, $640 a year, and buy a 2-year-old one and you inherit 4 of them. One last thing that applies to every Toyota and Lexus hybrid. The battery that strands people isn't the big one. It's the 12-volt auxiliary battery. Dash lights up like a fruit machine, won't go into ready, and it's a cheap part that gets mistaken for a catastrophe. Almost nothing breaks, and when something does, Lexus holds the bill during the warranty and you hold it afterwards, with a very short list of people allowed to touch it. That's the rule at its hardest. It isn't whether it breaks, it's what it costs when it does and who's allowed to fix it. Right, the recap. 7. Suzuki. Reliability by weight, not by cleverness. 10 years of cover if you stay in the network. 6. Skoda. Volkswagen engineering with a competitive repair market attached. Ask what gearbox it's got. 5. Kia. 7 years transferable. Ask for the stamps or it's worthless. 4. Hyundai. Unlimited mileage with the fragile part of the gearbox designed out. 3. Mazda. Superb unless you buy the 2.2 diesel for short journeys. Then it's the dipstick monthly. 2. Honda. Top of what car? Chains not belts and effectively no gearbox to fail. 1. Lexus. Most reliable brand in Britain, and it's Toyota underneath. Brilliant to own, expensive to be unlucky with. Honest takeaway. Toyota isn't a bad answer. It's just not the only one, and plenty of people pay a premium for that badge on the used market when a Skoda or a Suzuki does the same job for less. What decides your bill isn't the badge. It's 3 things. What's driving the wheels, whether an independent can work on it, and whether the tax and the emissions zone will let you keep it. Sort those 3 before you fall in love with anything. And do the free things first. Put the registration into the MOT history checker and read the advisories going back 5 years. That'll tell you more than any survey. Then the plate through the emissions checker. Both free, both 30 seconds, both done before you ring the seller. Now I want something specific off you, not opinions. If you've got one of these 7, tell me which, how many miles it's on, and the biggest single bill it's handed you. Actual number. That's the comment that helps the next bloke reading it. And if you reckon something here is wrong, say so and say why, and we'll put it right next time. There's a card up on screen now with another one of these. Have a look, it's worth your time. Buy with your head, not the badge. This video is based on publicly available recall notices, MOT, test data, safety ratings, reliability surveys, and independent review evidence current at time of publication. Individual vehicle outcomes vary. Some models may have had subsequent updates, recalls, or improvements. Always obtain current information and independent advice before making any purchase decision.